and welcome, family, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life truly on your own terms, in your own narrative, in your own story, family. Because those that controlled the narrative of the planet have lost control of that narrative. And we are in a transition from an old narrative to a new narrative. So trust me, the best place for you to be right now is in your own narrative and in the highest vibration of your own narrative, so that you end up on new earth and not new hell. Because that's literally what they're creating. They're creating now a new and more sinister version of hell on earth if you're trying to go the Babylon way, and if you're trying to go, the enlightened way, the Christ way. Then right now we are at self-actualizing, which is an absolutely amazing and wondrous thing. And to be here with at least 100 or 200 other people, maybe it's even 1,000, maybe it's even 10,000 of us self-actualizing at the same time, is shifting this reality. Whether they've locked chosen ones from all arenas of play in this world, it doesn't matter. Just the fact that you're here and that you're now awakening to who you are and you're now moving in your destiny is what is absolutely shifting the nature of reality, family, for real. And it's so important. A special shout out, by the way, before I even get into my story. Special shout out to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting us on that platform. We appreciate, love you so much for enabling us to do this show. Absolutely, just the sacrifice you make. We appreciate, love you. And for everyone that has sent us love donations, we will be sending you a special gift in the mail. Family, you see, for so long, I'm trying to see how to put this. We were not occupying our minds. Another entity was occupying our minds. And the way they did that is they literally cloned us into their story. So everything we believed about ourselves was based on their version of reality. And it's like, there's a famous saying that says, if you don't occupy your mind, someone else will. And there's this lady I heard online, and she was talking about witchcraft and everything. And she was just like, what if witchcraft is about those that hate you, hating you more than you love yourself? And that hit me so deeply, because I've been asking that question to the Most High and to my spiritual team. Like, what is the root? If we get behind the blood and the graveyard dirt and all this stuff, if we get to the heart of it, how is someone able to enter my energetic field? And my energetic field is basically my mind, and mash me up. How are they able to do that? And it's because their will over my life is greater than my will and desire and plan for my own life. And that's why most narcissists, and Babylon is a narcissistic system, in every story of anyone who has encountered these mothers and fathers that married us off as children and were siphoning off our gifts all our lives, basically just by being connected to become one, they could now, as long as we remain single and not thinking about ever becoming free, they could literally live our life. Some of you are the reason that your parents had such incredible prosperity. Some of you are the reason that your parents have even survived till now, family. They should have been out of here many, many years ago. But just because, they traumatized you and they gave you a trauma narrative. Like, I remember, there's this nearest and dearest family member, and they programmed me to, almost go crazy if anything was to ever happen to them. And being psychic, like there were several times like I would feel they were in danger. And sometimes I was in one continent and they were in another continent. And I realized she was using me as a spiritual bodyguard, family. Like I would be hysterical, like, oh my God, something's going to happen to her. What's going to happen to my life? Like it was crazy. And I wonder, where did that come from? Why did I get so traumatized to the point, like, and so every time my energy would go to her and I'd be literally like paralyzed in bed all day. Now, in hindsight, I see how she used me as her psychic protection. Because they just need you to think about what they want you to think about so that they can manipulate you. But it all comes down to their passion for your life is greater than your own. And they do that to you on purpose since you're a child. They teach you how to hate yourself, how to feel shame, how to feel guilt. I remember growing up, the stories, and I don't know if this was just because like so many Africans have taken on that British humor, where all the stories that were ever shared about your childhood were about how you were messing up or how you were crazy or how you couldn't keep secrets and all these random little stories which were not your main narrative, but they made it your main narrative. And the only reason your life has shifted is because you've started loving yourself. Many of you, that is the only reason. It's like somehow, some way, you started loving yourself more than they hated you. And that has happened from the awakening, where there's so much we're processing, where we're realizing, you know what? We weren't the wicked ones in this situation. We weren't the demons in this situation. And so if you find yourself in a pit of hell, start loving on you like never before. And it's funny what loving yourself will do. It's funny what loving yourself will shift inside of you. Because when you start loving yourself, there's certain things you will not put up with anymore. You just can't do it. Just like you used to cry and feel pain if someone else life was in danger or something bad was going to happen to someone. Now that love comes back to you. You stop caring about what other people think. You start caring about, how does this make you feel? How do the decisions and actions make you feel? That now starts to override, what will my family say? What will my daddy say? What will my mama say? Like that becomes less and less relevant. And you realize the less and less relevant other people's opinion becomes, the more important your own opinion over your own life becomes, family. And you see, what I keep talking about is we're in a mental prison. For so long, people have taught us about what to physically do to get out of that mental prison. And the reason that happened is because we were stuck in a very low vibration, where everything was literally, as someone said, we fell from the head to the root, where everything was based on our root. The lowest, it's all physical. That's like the low, that's like when you're, what do I say? Well, how can I put it? That's when you're like materializing physically. Like everything had to be done through physical sacrifice, through physical worship, prayer. Those things still work, family. But a lot of things had to be done physically, and a lot of these witches and wizards did things physically. They'd slaughter a sheep with your name on it and then feed it to the whole family, and the whole family is literally eating a goat that was slaughtered in. That's why I stopped doing weddings and funerals and participating with a lot of these families who just practice too much. You don't know who you're eating. And that's why another reason I stopped eating red meat and all that, family. When I discovered like just the level, because you see, as brilliant as we are, us who are of the light, those melanated who have chosen to go into darkness, they've become brilliant in terms of manipulating that energy to do the most. And a lot of you ask, how can that happen? I don't want to go into much because I don't want people to be using these skills to, because anyway, that magic is not working anymore. But it's created a lot of debt and hardship for those who have done it and for their descendants. Like they've been cursed to fall with Babylon. Like it's serious in these streets, family. But now we're not at now many of us have gone back up. We've raised our frequency. We went on a journey of celibacy and cleaned out all the muck, energetic muck that was in us, and continue to raise ourselves up to the highest level, to the highest point, family. And now a lot of us are operating from our higher selves, which means we're operating from our sight. We're operating from our crown, which is our connection to the divine. Like literally there's like golden light consciously, constantly pouring in here when you're an enlightened one or a chosen one. That's why they have halos. That's what they've been trying to, they tried to dim that and muddy that up. It didn't happen. But as long as the enemy of your soul hates you more than you love yourself, then you'll stay in bondage, family. You'll be a victim of their witchcraft. It's beyond fear. Fear is something you have to overcome, yes, but this is beyond fear. This is about self-love. Like the reason you've been defeated in the past, and I wouldn't even call it defeat, but the reason you lost battles, you won the war, but the reason you took L's in the past was because of a lack of self-love, family. I'm telling you, once you love yourself, you're not going to allow anyone to sacrifice you. When you love yourself, you'll send that back to sender. When you love yourself, you'll want to see what has truly happened to you, and you will bounce back. That love will bring you back from the pit of hell. And love is a vibration. So when you love yourself, you have access to higher level beings to work with you and protect you and help you to finish strong. Love is a vibration that a lot of these people are not on. And if we look at Africa, family, as I wind up, if we look at Africa and we take that same concept, it's like the Mzungu was so deliberate in hating us, in seeing us like an animal, in seeing us like we're poor and we're destitute and we're filled with disease. And all, they were so hell-bent on seeing us like that. And then, through religious psychosis, we were taught not to love ourselves, that we took ourselves down to their vibration. Their hate for us has always been more powerful than our love for each other and our love for ourselves. That's why they keep winning. That's why they keep dominating Africa. And you're starting to see, I don't know why my voice has become so high, but you're starting to see, family, a shift now. As Africans start to love themselves, there's a shift that's happening where there's certain things we're no longer putting up with. We realize we've gotten ourselves caught up in a hellhole, so we can't be out there too crazy. But our African leaders are quietly rejecting narratives that are not in our best interest. I know a couple of months ago, several of you sent me this story, but it was really not an issue in Africa, and I didn't want to kind of put it on our consciousness. It was about how the WHO was looking to get all the nations to sign away their sovereignty, where in case of any future pandemic, the WHO could literally come into countries and say, yo, you have to vaccine your population, you have to do this, you have to do that, and and that would be above national governments. This was one way they were going to try and implement the New World Order, but they had to go through the UN. Well, Africa as a bloc decided no. And they quietly did it. And it's like that story quietly faded. I didn't see it making any headlines. I didn't see anyone talking about how Africa said absolutely not to globalists telling us what we're going to do with the health of our people. They did it quietly through the UN, through the voting systems. And this is why I say, family, my ultimate prayer, if God was just to drop like $1 billion shillings, which is what, like $100 million onto my lap, I'd go about building that African CNN, that African, look at how Wyon, We Are One, World is One, whatever, which is an Indian publication. All of a sudden, India's narrative is now powerfully on the global scene. And India has been making some powerful moves, and they are definitely going to be the new leaders. Their population is bigger than China. They're like this, the hidden one that's come forward, and they're everywhere. They've established themselves everywhere. They've built their temples everywhere. Really, people need to study India and India's diaspora to understand how an empire is built, because they're the empire that no one has even talked about. I mean, wasn't the prime minister of the divided kingdom even going to be an Indian guy, Ricky or something like that? That's how powerful they're, whatever. And they've built temples and everywhere. They never changed their religion. They kept their gods, and their gods have blessed them. But those are stories for other days. So family, the more that we love ourselves, and we're seeing it happening, especially I love this new generation because they love themselves. The more we love ourselves, the more Babylon will have to step back. We won't even have to really take any serious physical moves because it will be done spiritually. Us loving ourselves will change the vibration, even on the motherland. They try and make it so complicated. Like, if we want our independence, we have to do this and we have to do that. No. If we want to be independent, we have to love ourselves more than the way you hate us and have hated us for so long. So teach your children to love themselves, to love their people. Feed them on narratives that are empowering. Feed yourself, more importantly, or as equally as important, with narratives that empower you and feed you and build you up. And in a twinkle of an eye, that love will override the hatred of your mother or your father or your family members or your cousin or your former best friend or some, your whatever enemy you have. It will override them, and they will no longer have any kind of stronghold over your life. Because witchcraft, family, it's a mental warfare. What witchcraft does is it messes with your creative process, because your thoughts are creating your experience. Your emotions are creating your experience. So what is going on in here, or I mean, it's not really in here, but just so we can all understand, what is going on in your mind as you're creating, that's what they interfere in. They come into the energy, they come into your energy as you're forming your next experience, and they interfere. So then now your energy is always being sent, trying to defend yourself from these attacks, trying to recover, because they're also stealing energy. That's what they do. They're attacking you at their level. Because the tongue still has power for those who believe it has power. And, there's some wizards who, they add the blood and everything, but just their hatred for you keeps you in bondage, family. And the only antidote is your love for yourself. That's it. The battle is here, and that's why our ancestors always talk about, if you don't occupy your mind, someone else will. There's so many spiritual beings. Hey, that's a whole other story of how many spiritual beings are just moving around here looking for a body. Do your research on walk-ins. How spirits will walk into a body. This usually happens like if someone experiences like a fatal accident, their spirit may decide to leave and another spirit will go in. And you'll notice, like, sometimes you'll notice, like, people, like, will say, like, before their near-death experience, they were this kind of person. And then when they came back out of that, they were a totally different person. Oh, my God, I could go so deep into this, even into surgery and what happens when we're totally disconnected from our spirit. But family, I share all this to get you excited about who you are and to encourage you to love yourself more. Because when you start to love yourself more, all the rescue, all the help, all the reinforcement will come flooding into your life. Tuko pamoja. looking for a conscious community, or for people, who are on their awakening journey, on their transition to an off-grid living in your country, well, we have the solution, family. We're calling it Unity Communities. We get so many emails every week from people who ask if I know of people in their region, or people in their city, or people in their town who are on a similar kind of journey, who have broken away or are breaking away from the religious psychosis, and they're looking for just people who think the same way in their town, in their city. But more importantly, to give us a community where we feel understood, understood, overstood, where we can bond with people of like mind. And if you feel called to be part of this, definitely email me at drmumbi at drmumbishow.com. Please put your country in the subject line with Unity Communities. Get in touch with me, drmumbi at drmumbishow.com. Unity Communities.